Hey there, Jen here from Moved From Within. I'm a cranial-sacral therapist and I teach yoga and movement, and I focus on chronic pain. If you haven't met me yet before, here I am. I just wanted to talk to you really briefly today, short little video, about something that I like to call resistance. And I just wanted to talk to you about this kind of more conceptually. It applies to pretty much every aspect of our life. So just something that I wanted to putting up there because something that I definitely think about in my own life and something that I notice as well with my clients. If you've ever felt like, hey, I really want to actually meditation, I'll use meditation as an example because it's a fabulous example. So meditation, for anyone who's ever tried to practice meditation, you will know that it's actually really hard. So you might think that sitting down and being still for like 5-10 minutes or half an hour sounds like a dream. However, when we spend that time with ourselves without anything to distract ourselves from, we get pretty bored pretty fast. We get really distracted and we want to do something or move or we're trying to kind of constantly find something. So that is something, in the Buddhist philosophy, if those are, familiar with meditation, Buddhist meditation, that's also named as resistance. But I feel like sometimes there's a really negative connotation when it comes to resistance, and I wanted to put a little bit of a different spin on it today. I want to talk a little bit about maybe the function of resistance and why we have this thing and what it looks like, what it feels like, and maybe allowing a little bit of space to inquire of why it's there and is it supporting us or is it not. So resistance. Okay, so let's kind of move along with the meditation example. So let's say we decided we're going to meditate every single day. And first of all, if you've looked at any of the other videos I've done, I did one on doing small things rather than huge things. So in order to be more successful overall. And so for example, rather than deciding that, my New Year's resolution is going to be to meditate for 1 hour every day, just to start really slow and just be gentle with yourself. So let's imagine that we are doing just that. We're going to go, okay, you know what? I'm going to set aside 5 minutes every day. I'm going to meditate every day at 7 o'clock in the morning when I wake up. Okay, so you set your alarm, you set your timer, you do your meditation. Maybe week 1 goes by totally easily, maybe even week 2 goes by really easily, there might be a couple hiccups in there. And then eventually you're going to run into a day where you're like, I just don't have time to meditate today. I've got an early morning meeting or my kid's sick or whatever, and you make a reason, but it's okay, I'll do it tomorrow, right? So tomorrow comes, and then over time you might notice that it might be harder and harder to stick to that meditation. So rather than you're like, rather than go 7 o'clock in the morning, I think maybe I'll just, do it whenever during the day, and I won't set a specific time. I won't be hard on myself with that. So great, right? Like, as long as you get it done, you get it done. But then again, you start to run up with excuses like, maybe I just don't have time, I'm really tired, it's time to go to bed, I have to get up early, all these different things. We have tons of excuses, so I'm not going to go through the whole gamut of them, but you kind of get my idea, hopefully, that essentially we will try to come up with something in order to avoid whatever it is we're coming up against in that meditation practice. So we might not be consciously aware of what's going on. However, one thing that I just wanted to invite was rather than just pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, just take a step back and ask yourself the question of, why is this so hard all of a sudden? Why am I making up excuses? And just to sit with that for a moment, just to pause and sit with that. What is it that is not allowing me to show up for myself in my daily meditation practice? So the other thing too is nothing might come up in terms of an answer right away or something that might have to stew, but I find that intentionality of just kind of letting it sit there And perhaps something a little bit later will come up. Or perhaps it might inspire you to just sit down and meditate on that as your meditation practice in the following bits. But the other thing I really wanted to recognize, and this is something I wanted to kind of bringing it back to my cranial sacral therapy practice, especially with the cranial sacral therapy practice, because the potential for huge changes and shifts is there. It's totally not a question there. And sometimes we might not be ready at this moment in time to kind of move through something or shift something. And I think it's really, really important to allow just timing to move in its own place. So it's usually not helpful to force something, especially when it comes to healing in your body. And especially if you're dealing with maybe some big stuff or some held stuff that you've been holding on to for a while. Some of those things that are really sticky, ingrained, need a little bit of resources, need a little bit of compassion, need a little bit of softness before we can start to go there, because they might be really scary. And I think it's really important to honor the fact that maybe you don't want to sit down to your meditation. Well, I'm not saying you, I mean, this is part of, our example here, but maybe just having the possibility of the reason of not showing up for that is because it's really difficult and it's really hard, and maybe it's even really scary and doesn't feel safe. So I just wanted to kind of acknowledge that, because some of the stuff that we do can really on the outside it just seems really easy and simple, but just because it's simple doesn't mean it's really can be profound, and it can be really challenging, and not to have to rush through things and push through things. So really just taking the time to just be with yourself, sit with yourself, and ask, is this something I feel really, really called to? And this is something that I will say a lot with my clients. If you feel called, if you feel pulled to come here for some reason, then come. Just make the appointment, just show up. If for some reason after a session, or if some reason you just keep on rescheduling and there's no time, that's a really good moment for you to pause and think about, why is it that I feel like it's not the right time? Or why is it that I feel like I just can't make the time? And is it that I can't make the time for myself? Or is there something else going on that maybe I'm not ready to go there yet? And that's okay. It's really, really important for me when I work with people to work with people that feel really ready, because that's when things will move. That's when things will shift. And also when we're ready, our systems are also resourced enough to be able to do what they need to do in terms of shifts and changes and all that good stuff that happens. So just really, really important to be, one, just be gentle with yourself. And two, just be curious. And especially around these little things that we like to call resistance. Be soft, be gentle, and be curious. Okay, I will leave that. Sorry, it's a bit of a longer video, but we kept it under 10 minutes. Yay. Hopefully that helps you. Have a great day, night, evening, wherever you are. We'll see you again very soon.